Right, go.
You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, fire.
Oh man, I went far.
I wished it in there. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning.
What day is it today?
Day
11.
11. Wow.
So yesterday we left you guys at a cliffhanger. We didn't really know what to do. We were trying to fix the oil leak. We managed to get everything off and find where it's coming from. It was coming from the ball bearing, basically, or where the camshaft is attached and comes through into the pulley. And I realized that there is no seal there, and that oil should not be coming out of there. And so basically what's happening is the oil breather has to be clogged, which means the pressure builds up in the crankcase and the oil just tries to find the easiest way out. And so we did discover that the hose for the oil breather ended up being kinked, probably through all the corrugations and everything, and so it was completely blocked and the crankcase couldn't breathe, or the oil couldn't breathe. So we cut that piece out, just planted it nice and straight, cleaned up the filter and put everything back together, and she's ready to go. Alright, we'll get this finished, probably take a shower because we are dirty, and have brekkie and get going. Yeah, see you guys in the dunes. Alright, we made it, what, 5Ks?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 5Ks. That happened. I'm not an expert, but I think that the tire should be on the rim.
It will help.
Not next to it, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, not a big deal. All we need to do is just lift the trailer up. So we just use the trailer legs to give us a little bit of a help, a little bit of clearance. Then we put a bottle jack under the rear suspension arm, lift it up, put a new wheel on because we've got spare wheels. Keep this, take this one with us, and when we get to Birdsville, we just pop the tire back on. It's just the tire came off; it's not punctured. But yeah, that's it. Just a rough road. Things like this happen. Make sure you have spare tires, right? That's it.
Correct.
Yep. All right, we'll put it back on, and we'll see you guys at Popple's Corner. So when we cleaned up the tire bed and opened it up, we noticed that it just does look like it popped from the outside rim, or the bead. So we're just gonna try to give it a quick test if we can inflate it and pop it back on. Alright, that worked. It's on. Alright, we'll just tighten the bolt and we'll get going. Well, this track is taking its toll, and yeah, this is what it looks like. All we need to do now is just give it some air. It'll pop back onto the rim. If not, there seems to be a couple of ventilation holes here. We might just plug it up with a couple of plugs. You can see through the tire all the way through the other side onto the ground. No, I'm just kidding. This one is done. So we'll just raise the whole thing up, put a jack under the suspension, lift it up, take the wheel off, put a new wheel on, and keep going. Alright, set wrap. What does it look like?
Looks like the axle's bent.
It does look like the axle's bent. Definitely pops from this.
It's not moving. So
yeah. So what we're gonna do is we'll take the wheel hub off and see what it looks underneath. If it's just the axle, we might be able to sort of get it back to be straight. If it's something else, then it's a bigger problem, but we'll see how we go. Let's take that off.
what are you doing?
So the axle is bent, obviously we couldn't straighten it. Bit afraid that we snap it. So the problem is that it was rubbing against the brake inside because it's a drum brake, which we took off, and it's fine, it's not rubbing anymore. But because of the angle, the tire is actually rubbing against the chassis. And you can see it actually here where it rubbed before we stopped. And so what would happen was it would just melt. So there's two options what we can do. We'll take the brake cover off because that is still rubbing. You can see it here, it's partially melted already. So that would be a big problem. So we'll take that off. But the axle is bolted with 4 bolts square onto the chassis. And so two options. Either we can flip it, that way it's going to be bent down and the wheel is actually going to be tracking a little bit off. It's not something we want to do on road, but off-road it will get us out. Or we can put a spacer behind the top bolt and bring it a little bit on an angle, which will actually make the axle straight. So we'll try that first. If that looks secure and safe, we'll do that. If not, then we'll just flip it upside down so the axle is actually pointing down, the wheel is away from the chassis. So let's give it a try.
What's wrong with your axle?
Behold the leaning tower of axle.
Yeah.
It's not straight, and it should be straight. That's pretty much the story. Yeah. YouTube channel. Alright guys, quick update. We ended up doing a combination of both. So we flipped the axle upside down, so it's bent downwards rather than upwards. And we put a couple of spaces in there, so it's not tracking completely on the edge of the tire. That should really do the trick. It'll roll, it's not gonna rub on the chassis. And because the wheel alignment bolts are actually on max now with the top of the tire outwards, we can bring it a little bit more straight with that. And honestly, that should pretty much do the trick. And then when we get to town, just get a new axle, bolt it on, that's it. Alright, we'll see how she rolls, but should be good. Darren's just adding some electrical tape on the electric brakes, connector, because we did have to take the brakes out, because otherwise they would be rubbing inside, because they are attached to the fixed part of the wheel and to the axle, and the rotating part was rubbing on the brakes, which would just create heat and melt everything. So almost there, get a bit of rest, and then we'll get going, and hopefully we'll finally make it to Popple's Corner this week sometime.
Please may I borrow one of your big zip ties?
Yes.
Because I can tie this to the chassis.
Alright guys, I will leave you there. I'm gonna get a zip tie for Darren because he will kill me if I won't. Bye bye. Alright guys, it's time for another rant in the cab of the Y62. And today is once again Darren's time in the buggy. Mine was yesterday. And I'm in the Y62 today. So just to recap what happened, we managed to fix the buggy. Then we had the tire pop off the wheel on the trailer. We managed to get it back on, but what we think is we didn't get it on properly, and it was still leaking air, and it has gone flat. Probably at some point it got a bit of a bump, it got flat. Within a matter of seconds it probably hit a hard rock or something. Because there was no air in the tire, it basically hit directly onto the rim, and it dented the rim and it bent the axle. So here's a tip when you're going really remote and you're having a trailer. carry a spare axle with you.
Hey guys, we finally made it to Poepell Corner. It's been quite a day. Poepell Corner is where you can stand in 3 states pretty much at the same time. So this is South Australia, Jake's in Queensland, and over here is the Northern Territory. So this is where the border of the 3 states meets. And yeah, it's a pretty cool spot. There's the big Salt Lake behind us.
There's actually an interesting story about this, how they measured it with chains and they were like a couple hundred meters off or something. And
Right.
how do you measure distance across half of Australia with chains?
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
Mm.
Alright, we'll go find some camp, eh?
Yeah.
We made it!
It's been a heck of a day.
Oh my god!
It's been a heck
Was this the 3rd day we were like, oh, we'll be at Popple's Corner tonight?
No. Finally we're at Popple's Corner, but it's taken much longer than we expected.
But because we were ahead, this is actually when we were supposed to be here.
Yeah, so we're
we caught up.
technically on schedule.
Alright, let's
Alright.
go find camp. Well, hello. We made it to campsite. Darren is busy taking photos for Instagram. Look at that.
What a spot.
How's that for a campsite? Oh yeah. Wait, the sun is setting over there,
Yeah,
which means the sunrise is gonna be
pretty epic.
there.
Yeah, that's gonna look pretty stunning.
Oh, look at the little buggy.
Yeah.
Good job.
Buggy did good today, not a drop of oil.
Yeah, so our fix worked. Proud of that. Could have been a bit easier, but hey,
There you
that's
go.
how we learn. Trailer, also, fix seems to be working.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Y62 front right CV is not busted, but the boot is open, there's rubbish in it, so it's clicking. But as long as it's not exploded, it can just keep clicking, that's fine. Worst case, if it does explode, we'll pull it out, pull the 4-wheel drive fuse, which will put it into rear-wheel drive only, and then it's still pretty much fine unless we're crawling over some crazy dunes. But honestly, all of the recently dunes I've done in standard high range.
Yeah.
So it's not like we need crazy 4-wheel drive low range. But yeah, all right. Let's get the fire going. And
Let's get this party started.
what's for dinner?
Oh mate, I have no idea. I don't know what we've got left.
We got burgers.
Yeah, burgers.
Burgers. Burgers with bacon and cheese.
Oh hell yeah. I even
Let's
put
do
some
this.
beers in the fridge for a change.
Oh, that is a good one. Yep. I mean, Ferrell is really good, but it's definitely better when it's cold, is it?
Oh, there's nothing better. Cracking open a feral draft now that's ice cold, literally ice cold.
Oh, wow. All right. We're signing out. And tomorrow, hopefully, Big Red and Birdsville. See you guys.
Big Bird and Birdsville.
See you guys. Big Bird and Birdsville. What? Big Red and Birdsville. See ya.